Okay, hi folks. I'm just going to um, walk you through, since we missed class on Wednesday, I'm going to just walk you through what I was going to show you and about setting up your score for your final project. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at MuseScore. And so here you can see um, we've got your usual start. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. The first way is using a template. So your usual thing. So if you go to under, see there's all these categories here. If you go to popular is probably going to be your best bet in terms of what most of you are going to be after. So if I go to rock band, that gives me this setup. I've got two vocal parts, two guitar parts, bass and drums. Now, if I want to adjust this, uh, my shortcut key is I. If I click the I key, then I get the instrument dialog. Um, so I'm going to get rid of my second voice because I don't need that. I'm going to get rid of my rhythm guitar part, so I just click on the part I remove from score. So now I've got voice, guitar, bass guitar, drums. Now if I want to add keyboards, um, I'm going to put add piano, let's say. We'll add to score. So see, I clicked under keyboards here, and then there's all these um, different categories. So we'll add piano. Now, we also need to discuss score order. Um, so the general concept is, you put things on the score from highest instrument to lowest instrument. That applies certainly if you have horns or strings or woodwinds or anything like a section like that, saxophones, you would go, for example, if you have a string section, you would go, the violin is the highest instrument, so you would have the violin at the top, then the viola, which is the next highest, and then the cello, and then the double bass would be the last staff. So usually top to bottom, it's highest to lowest. In a situation like this, where that's a little bit more nebulous. We would have the voice probably on the top here, and then we would have guitar probably, and then piano. Now you could reverse those. It could be piano and then guitar. It doesn't really matter. But I definitely want the bass and the drums to be the bottom two staves. So drums at the bottom and then bass just above that. So I'm going to just adjust this slightly. So the piano, I'm going to move up. So if I have the piano highlighted, there are these arrows here. I can just use the up arrow to put the piano in the position that I want it. So now I have my voice, guitar, piano, and then bass and drums. So I click OK, and there's my setup the way I want it. So that's if we do it from a template. Now you can also do it from scratch, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'll just reopen MuseScore here. Okay, so now I'm just going to go, I can even X this out because I've already got a lead sheet basically set up here. Um, so what I can do now is, again, go to the instrument dialog, and then I can just add instruments. So let's say vocal, I want voice, add to score. I want to add guitar. So that's going to be under strings plucked. And let's say I want to have electric guitar. add to score, and I also want to have electric bass, add to score, and then drums are going to be under unpitched percussion. So there's drum set, add to score. Now the order is all out of whack here, so the drum set is highlighted, so I'm going to use the down arrow to get the drums down at the bottom. So I have the drums at the bottom, I have the bass just above the drums, I have the guitar, I want the voice on top, so I'm going to move the piano down. Piano, there we go. So that's how I want things looking, and if I click OK, there's my nice little score setup. So then in terms of input, you're just going to write as if you're writing individual parts for each of these instruments. So your voice will have, it doesn't have to be voiced, by the way, but that's your melody, basically. So, you know, if it's a song with lyrics, then you'll have your, you know, just as if you were writing a lead sheet, basically. You can treat your top line of your score more or less the same as if you were writing your lead sheet, except that you don't necessarily have to put the chord changes on that line. Now you have your guitar and your piano. So one thing to point out here is that just because you, let's say you have chord changes written in on your guitar part, just because you have the chord changes on the guitar part doesn't mean that you don't also need to put them in your piano part. The idea being that, you know, you can explode this score into individual parts that you would give to the individual instruments. And if you do that, you know, MuseScore will do it for you, but it will only carry over the whatever information you have on that staff. So your piano part, if you don't have the chord changes on the piano part as well as the guitar part, when you separate the parts out, there's going to be no chord changes on the piano part. So, so that's an important note. Don't just don't make that assumption that you just because you have chord changes up here doesn't mean you also don't need to put them in here. You've got your bass part here and your drum part, so you're basically just writing those parts using all the techniques that we've discussed in class. And you know, as per that discussion, you don't have to write specific parts for all the instruments. For example, you don't have to write specific drum parts where you have the bass drum and the snare drum and the you know, hi-hat or whatever, but you can. If you have a specific groove that you want, you can you can write that. You don't. You basically just probably have to write it once, like sample groove or something like that, and then you can use repeat bars after that. And yeah, so if there's any questions about any of this, we can address them this week. This week's class is basically just going to be review, time for you to ask questions, and time for you to work on your projects. You know, we'll sort of probably hang out for a bit in class, and then if people want to go off to the MIDI lab and work on their projects, and I'll just hang around and make myself available if people need guidance or have questions or things like that. So yeah, so that's about it. That's basically what I wanted to show you. And I will stop screen sharing, and my alter ego and I say, see you on Wednesday.